Well, let's have a look at it. This will be Plaintiff's Exhibit 63. I just want to make sure you get a chance to see it.
This is the excerpt from the congressional record.
No, Your Honor, this is
Which one?
This is Exhibit EX63. Okay. This is a federal statute, 5 U.S.C. 3331, which sets forth the oath of office for federal officers, including members of Congress. Okay. And as well, we can make that a little bit bigger. I want to make sure the representative can see it. The highlighted portion of this. So if you see that a third of the way, 2/3 of the way down, it says that I will take this obligation. I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. See that? And you now recall that was part of the oath, right?
Yes.
And what did that mean to you, Congresswoman Greene?
About taking it freely without reservation?
Yes.
It means I'm swearing the oath and I have no reservation.
Great. Now, one part of the Constitution, Representative Greene, is the 12th Amendment, right?
Yes.
You're familiar with the 12th Amendment?
Yes.
That's the one that provides for the constitutional process for counting electoral votes in a presidential election, right?
Your Honor, I object. Under the speech and debate clause, she cannot be questioned about what she does on the floor of Congress pursuant to her legislative responsibility.
And I don't intend to ask any question of that sort, Your Honor. I just want to have her understanding of the Constitution. This is a case about Representative Greene's state of mind, including her understanding of the oath and the Constitution.
Then I further object because this case is not about her state of mind. It's whether or not she engaged in insurrection or rebellion, engaged in those conduct.
I agree. Her state of mind has nothing to do with anything. Her state of mind would be a concern of when she was elected, not now.
I concur.
And as a rep,
So sustained. Next question, Mr. Joe.
Ms. Greene, if somebody tried to unlawfully interfere with the process of counting the electoral votes, unlawfully, that person would be an enemy of the Constitution. Wouldn't you agree?
Does it define that way? Is it defined that way?
Well, I'm asking.
What do you mean, is it defined that way? Is what defined that way? An evasive question right there.
For your understanding, if somebody broke the law in a way designed to interfere with the process of counting the electoral college votes, that person would be an enemy of the Constitution.
You mean interrupting Congress? Is that what you're referring to?
No, he means interfering with the electoral votes, not interrupting Congress, Marjorie. It's a yes or no answer, lady. This is her first question of the trial, too.
Doing anything unlawfully to interfere with the process of counting the electoral votes.
Interrupting Congress, like when the Democrats interrupted Congress and...
Oh well. This guy asks her about electoral interference making somebody an enemy of the Constitution, and she points her fingers at the Democrats instead of answering the question. This would indicate guilt on her part. If she is in fact guilty, how does the Democrats' illegality justify her treasonous involvement? She's stalling and evading right here.
A sit-in on the House floor and stopped Congress.
Excuse me, Greene.
Yes.
Could you rephrase your question?
I'm entitled to ask my questions in the way I'd like to ask them, Your Honor. I ask that you listen to my question and simply respond.
So ask her the right questions
Yes.
then.
So if someone broke the law in an effort to interfere with the counting of the electoral votes, that person would be an enemy of the Constitution. Am I right about that?
Breaking the law is unlawful. There's been over 700 people charged for what happened on January 6th.
Right. And those people were trying to interfere with the lawful process of counting the votes for the Electoral College, right?
I would assume, yes, they did. They stopped
Okay.
the electoral count. Yes.
Right. And so those people would be enemies of the Constitution. You would agree with that, right?
I don't know. Breaking the law is unlawful. There's been over 700 people charged for what happened on January 6th.
Right. And those people were trying to interfere with the lawful process of counting the votes for the Electoral College, right?
I would assume, yes, they did. They stopped
Okay.
the electoral count. Yes.
Right.
She hasn't answered either yes or no yet. She tap danced around the question of whether that act would make such people enemies of the Constitution or not, only to now play ignorant.
If it defines it that way.
Well, having taken the oath that we saw on the screen, if you were aware that someone was going to unlawfully interfere with the constitutional process of counting the electoral votes, you'd be obliged by your oath to try to stop them, right?
Your Honor, I object. The claim is not she violated her oath. The claim is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. And so her opinion on words...
Okay, the 14th Amendment is, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property, without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. I don't understand what this amendment has to do with this trial, as this trial is about her involvement, not her favoring the ones guilty, which she's pretending to be ignorant of.
Like enemies are words of art often in the law, is just irrelevant to the matter, to whether or not she engaged, did a direct and overt act of insurrection.
Your Honor, we had a 1-hour presentation on the law from Mr. Bob. We did not object to that.
I will let you answer the question. I've forgotten what it is.
Can we ask for it to be read back?
Question. If you were aware that somebody was going to unlawfully interfere with the constitutional process of counting electoral votes, you would be obliged to have them arrested or stopped, right?
You may answer.
You may answer the question to the best of your ability.
I had no knowledge of any attempt, and so that's a question that I can't answer.
Well,
I can't answer that question.
You just confirmed their guilt 5 minutes ago, Marjorie. You're an enemy of the Constitution right now, lying about treason. Okay, you can't answer because you know nothing, yet you seem to know the Democrats are guilty of whatever you claimed back there. You seem to know lots about both Joe and Hunter. You seem to know that Joe stole the 2020 election, but January 6th is just a blank in your head? Bullshit.
I take your representation that you had no knowledge for the time being. I'm asking it as a hypothetical question, just to understand.
I can't answer a hypothetical question.
Well, I'm permitted to ask you one, so I'm going to ask you again.
Okay, what the fuck is this guy on about? This trial is neither about the oath Marjorie took, or those people who are guilty, or Marjorie's state of mind for that matter. This is fucking bullshit. I'll add that this doesn't mean Marjorie is killing it in any way, as her supporters are praising her for. This only means this trial is nonsense. Her supporters are simply delusional and dissonant.
If you had knowledge in advance that someone was going to unlawfully interfere with the counting of the electoral votes in a presidential election, under your oath, you'd be obliged to do something to stop that.
Well, this trial is about her involvement. I don't understand what this motherfucker's going on about. It has nothing to do with her knowledge, her hypothetical knowledge of anything that was going to go down on January 6th. What's this guy on about? Why is he still here?
Right?
I object. She's not being charged for violating her oath. There is no foundation laid that she had any knowledge about anything like that.
We'll come to that.
And so these...
I have to agree with the judge. Aside from this guy going on about the oath, these other people, Marjorie's state of mind, and now this bullshit hypothetical, Marjorie says she doesn't know. The question is, being a congresswoman, why hasn't she done any investigating? She is a congresswoman after all. Looks like she doesn't care about what happened. while she's supposedly this grand patriotic congresswoman. Now, I realize investigation is what the FBI does, not people in Congress, but Marjorie is a huge social media stage and podcast mouthpiece, smearing Democrats as she did once here already, Joe and Hunter Biden, while she spreads propaganda and lies. Although, again, she says she doesn't know about the people who were at the Capitol. That is a red flag, despite this guy's line of questioning being unrelated to the subject matter of this trial. Marjorie screams for Joe's impeachment on social media. Her supporters appraise her for being both a fighter and a patriot. Yet, while she seems to know everything about Joe and Hunter, she knows nothing about what happened on January 6th. Something serious that occurred where she fucking works. She also claims to know every illegal act committed by those evil Democrats. Yeah, something is very fishy about her here. So far, this is very bad, on both Marjorie's and this guy's part. And it's only 15 minutes of however many hours this trial will go on for. Now, I'm sure some of you have heard this part, so I don't understand how any of you could let this pass. That tells me you are all disingenuous and dishonest. Your support for Marjorie and Donald is treasonous.
Sustain.
Let me try it a different way, Ms. Greene. You remember the part in the oath where you talked about taking on the obligations of the oath freely and without mental reservation or purpose of evasion? Recall that from a few minutes ago, right?
Yes.
Okay. If you knew that people were planning to interfere with the constitutional process of counting the electoral votes, you knew that before you took the oath, and you took the oath anyway, and decided not to do anything about those plans, that would be a mental reservation. Don't you agree?
Objection, she is not. She is not being charged with violating the oath. The question is, did she engage in insurrection or rebellion?
Her state of mind is relevant, Your Honor. We think it's very important to have her understanding.
What, Mr. Joe?
It's relevant to whether she engaged in insurrection during the time period from January 3rd to January 6th. We're going to be talking about her state of mind all day.
You may come back to that question after you have laid a foundation for why it ties into her activities from and after the
Fair enough.
of the oath.
Fair enough, Your Honor. Ms. Greene, you're familiar with social media, right?
Yes.
And that's a form of communication, right?
Yes.
You know what Facebook is and Twitter, right?
Yes.
You use those as an important form of communication in your work.
Yes.
You post messages on Facebook, right? When you sent out this, strike that, did you send out this tweet, Ms. Greene? Ms. Wells, could you put it back up?
Yes.
Okay. And when you sent out this tweet, you wanted the people who read the tweet to know that it was your view that the votes for Mr. Biden for president were fraudulent, or some of them were, right?
That really wasn't the purpose of that tweet.
Answer his question, Marjorie. Your purpose for posting that content is not the lawyer's concern. That's not what he asked about.
I'm just asking whether when you sent this, you were communicating to the people who read your Twitter account that you believed that there were fraudulent votes for Mr. Biden and that your goal was to keep President Trump in the White House.
I was communicating that we were looking for a senator to join our objection, which is very much part of the responsibilities and duties that I can do as a member of Congress.
I agree with that, but the purpose of that was because
So Marjorie posts on social media seeking assistance about what she insists is a stolen election, but she never did anything like that for what happened on January 6th.
you believed that the votes for Mr. Biden were fraudulent, right? Or at least some of them.
We had been spending a vast amount of time reading and researching and talking to people, and had seen tremendous evidence of voter fraud. I don't know if you're aware, because I know you're not from Georgia. We currently have, our Secretary of State has an
Your Honor,
investigation
I would
going
move to
on
strike this.
into
I'm
election
entitled to
fraud
get an answer.
Okay. She claimed here that she and others have exerted this vast amount of effort into the 2020 election, which they all believe was fraudulent. But this suspicion has never arisen ever before Donald running for second term. No care for Bernie Sanders? Why and why not?
Most of my questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Greene. All right, let's back up.
By the way,
What?
Your Honor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we missed something very important. Can the representative be sworn?
Oh, thank you. No, I swore in.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay, I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
I thought I forgot. Sorry. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, no, she's thank you.
And can I ask the court to acknowledge that this is an adverse witness, a hostile
I
witness?
acknowledge that she's an
Okay.
adverse witness, and you
And-
may therefore cross-examine.
Right.
Even
And-
though it's only your case in chief. Yes, I acknowledge that.
And I would ask the court to remind the witness that in this posture, she has to answer my questions. She can't give speeches.
So start asking the right questions. Why isn't this asshole being thrown out? That's injustice right there. Again, though, that doesn't mean Marjorie is victorious, only that this trial is utter bullshit. This guy hasn't asked one relevant question yet, while all Marjorie is doing is evading and just pretending to not know. Complete fucking bullshit.
Is that fair?
She's entitled, you're entitled to an answer to the question that is asked.
She's also entitled to.
She has yet to answer questions. I don't know how and why this trial is even still going on.
May your answer.
You're not entitled to answers that are, to require her to answer when the question is objectionable, violates her First Amendment rights, is irrelevant to the charges that are being made, just to what? Fishing expedition, political theater, what is this?
This is cross-examination.
No, this is cross-examination.
I'm entitled to a yes, no, or I can't answer response.
Let's go ahead. Go ahead.
Unless this is objectionable.
You have a standing objection, Mr. Bob, to everything in the world. I want to question your witness.
Okay.
I also have one, because you're a fucking dickhead. You don't ask any right... What are you on about here? The judge has told you repeatedly that this whole trial is about her alleged involvement in the fucking January 6th Capitol building insurrection. Not her state of mind, whatever the fuck you want. This is bullshit.
Wait a minute. That's enough. Stop. Mr. Bob, please sit down. Next question, Mr. Chairman. This is not theater. This is not an argument from the Supreme Court. This is an evidentiary hearing. So let's get going.
An evidentiary hearing, meaning a hearing for evidence. Okay, what the fuck then?
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Wells, can you pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 2C, please?
Which number?
2C. Your tweet on December 19, 2020 that we've marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 2C. One of the things you're communicating to the people who would read this tweet was that you want them to come to Washington on January 6th for a demonstration. Is that right?
For a march for Trump.
Right. Fight for Trump. The phrase that you use there is hashtag fight for Trump, right?
So, a woman in Congress, a woman in government, calls for a, quote, fight for Donald, instead of calling for an investigation in the electoral votes. Her main concern is for Donald, not the system itself. Donald is the reason she and these other people are angry about this, quote, election fraud. As I've said many times on YouTube, Twitter, and Getter, that you conservatives aren't looking into the system itself, as you insist this voter fraud. If Joe did steal the election, who knows how many of the previous presidents also did, but you people only care about Donald, and this election in particular has caused your sudden outrage, which is the actual problem. None of you give a damn about Bernie, though, do you? I think I've heard enough. This trial is clearly a sham, while Marjorie is playing ignorant and dodging questions, even though they're both useless and non-contextual questions. Now, this doesn't mean Marjorie is victorious or kicking ass in this trial, as you supporters of hers appraise her for. It only means this trial is a gross injustice, being about a violation of national fucking security. Shame on all of you